Welcome back to the Catalyst podcast. Today we have the founder of ZooZoo Web and ReadySet Promo, Chuck Gorder. I'm super excited to talk about all things web development and app development and just really geek out on the technology, but also dive into all things marketing and sales. Hey, Chuck.
Hi.
Welcome to my podcast.
Hey, this is very exciting.
That's what everyone says. So I thought we would talk a little bit today about your journey as a business owner and obviously all things ZooZoo Web and ReadySet Promo. And of course, I love to talk about Mastermind, so we'll get to that. But I thought we could start with why you started your business, maybe take us back on that journey.
Yeah, so I was around when the internet began. That's
Take us back.
Cretaceous period or something like that. So I kind of just got into programming for the internet, all kinds of web programming, back-end programming, and then just decided to start my own company. And in that time period, it was kind of booming. So there was a lot of stuff to do and a ton of stuff to learn. I used to walk to work carrying a book. Reading while I walked. Yeah. And so then eventually that evolved into a second company, which is called ReadySet Promo, that does sweepstakes and contests and instant win games.
Super fun.
Brands and really, fun stuff, fun games and things like that. So, yeah. And then I've just been doing it ever since.
Yeah. And so I don't know if the question is like, do you have a favorite side of it? Like, do you like the web dev stuff better or the ReadySet Promo? Are they both kind of the same to you, or maybe help people understand like what is the difference, because they are unique and they are different and not everyone knows. I mean, I'm a techie at heart, right? I love technology and I love geeking on it, but maybe not everyone understands the difference between the two.
So when we're doing software development, we're building things like ReadySet Promo, which is more like what I would call a platform.
Yeah.
It's a platform for doing sweepstakes, contests, instant win games. There's a back end that allows us to set them up very quickly, and then we've just added features to it over time. So that's a platform or a web application. Like when you think of the things you use every day, Facebook, for example, is a web application. Really, it's a platform, a social media platform now. But it's this. So when you're building software, somebody might hire us to build a platform,
right?
Which we do all the time.
Yeah,
we will build something specific, custom made for someone.
Yeah.
And then at some point we built something like that and we said, hey, we should make this a platform. And so it turned into a platform and then it turned into a business, which I think happens a lot on the web because the web is kind of its own animal that way.
Right.
You know, you have things that can evolve, start out as just a little application and then evolve into something bigger.
Yeah.
And that's actually kind of the way I like to work with clients. I like to say, hey, start small. See what works.
Right.
Same thing with, we do digital marketing as well. Same thing with digital marketing. Start small. Do something small. Test, experiment, see what works.
Yeah.
What does your audience gravitate towards? And then expand it from there.
Yeah.
And maybe you'll wind up with a platform like
Yeah.
you did.
And I love this concept on your website, like you dream it, we build it. That's kind of been sort of a little bit of your secret sauce in working with businesses, is because as the world has evolved and sort of entrepreneurial side there's a lot of dreamers out there dreaming of, I mean, that's what's so cool about technology, right?
Absolutely.
Is people dream these concepts.
Yeah. I like to say, if you can imagine it, we can build it.
Yeah.
Like we could, of course it always just depends on where you start, how far you go, how big does it get.
Right.
But yeah, if you can dream it up, we can build it.
Yeah. What are some of the things that maybe you're the most proud of, or like were the coolest things you think you've got to build?
Oh, wow. We've built some really cool stuff. We built a talking pearl once.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So a pearl grows around a grain of sand. And this guy had a concept, again, his dream was to put an RFID tag, which is something that it's called a near field. When your phone is near it, it will trigger something, right? So he grew we put the RFID tag in the oyster and grew the pearl around this RFID tag. Then we built an app on the phone so that when you tapped the pearl, it would kick off something in the phone. So, for example, I could leave my wife a message, honey, I love you so much, whatever, and then give her a pearl.
Yeah.
And when she tapped her pearl with her phone, it would play that message back.
Oh,
So it feels like the pearl is talking.
that's so cool.
That was a really fun one. We did one recently for a company called SOS
Yeah.
Cosmetics. her name is Joy Hoover. She had an amazing idea to create a lip gloss that had testing strips in it. But there was also a panic button, which connected through Bluetooth to an app that we built that has 3 levels of emergency.
Right.
So if you're on a date and you're like, I don't really know about this person, level 1,
safe,
you don't feel safe. Level 1 might just be sending to your friend your location. Hey, this is where I am. I'm not so sure. Just wanted you to know where I am.
Yeah.
Level 2 might be, there's all different things that it will do, but level 2 might be your phone makes a noise, or a service that we programmed in will call your phone.
Right.
Even though no real person called you. And
Yeah.
you say, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I've got to go. My dog is sick.
Yeah.
Whatever, just gives you a way to get out of the situation.
Yeah.
All the way up to level 3 might be actually calling 911.
Yeah.
And you can imagine a scenario where something truly bad happened and you were separated from your phone. As long as that Bluetooth was in range, like they took your phone from you or whatever, you could literally call 911 by pushing that button on your lip gloss
Which
thing.
tends to happen in those scenarios, right?
Yeah,
That's the first thing that happens.
God forbid that it gets to that point, but that's the idea, is that you have all these different.
Yeah. What do you find are some of the biggest challenges that people, or like mistakes or misnomers or things that when people are choosing a software development company, we could talk about that, or even a marketing company, that like some of the things that people don't take into consideration or assumptions they make?
Wow, that's a good question. I think transparency in software development is incredibly important.
Yeah.
Because it's a very complicated thing, and you need a company that's going to tell you when things are not right, so that you can correct it together.
Yeah.
Tell you when your requirement is too complicated will cost too much. You need to. People always say to me, how much will it cost to build that?
Yeah.
And one of my developers, I like his phrase. He always says, how long is a piece of string?
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to understand that. I always liken it to building a house. If you say, I want a house, how much will it cost?
Right.
Well, what house?
Yeah.
Where? How many rooms?
Right. Yeah.
How many cars go in the garage?
Yeah.
Does it have a pool?
Yeah.
It becomes a very complicated just to understand the scope of something.
Yeah.
And so I think you really need a lot of communication and transparency.
Yeah.
That's really important. And it's the complaint I hear most often when people come to us having used other developers is they weren't responsive. They didn't communicate.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things I personally try to do is be that go between the technical side and the business side, which is where Mastermind has helped me tremendously to understand business problems very well and be able to communicate to the business stakeholders what the tech side is doing, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Because the tech side needs certain things. They need to understand things in a certain way to build it properly.
Right.
And so I tend to play that role of going back and forth between the two.
Yeah. And in marketing, it's so interesting because like in all the years that I've been in business, it feels like everyone wants marketing to solve a sales problem. And a lot of times, as I am coaching different levels of businesses, helping new businesses understand that marketing and sales is very different. They're two totally different animals, needs, wants, departments, skill sets, hiring for that. And that you have to build a marketing pipeline and a marketing or funnel or process and a sales process funnel pipeline. Yeah. And you have to hire for that and hire for that. It's very different. And a lot of businesses don't understand that.
Yeah.
And they think, oh, if I hire a marketing company, I'm going to just intrinsically or naturally have all these sales.
Yeah.
And that may be true, but what you have is marketing leads.
Yeah.
You have to turn them into sales.
Yeah. And one thing I've found getting more into the digital marketing space is there's a relationship. They're similar in the sense that when you're building something, you are putting it out there to see what works and also what your audience will respond to in an application, especially online.
Yeah.
There's the famous, if you build it, they will come, field of dreams, right?
Yeah.
Not true.
Yeah.
If you build it, they might not come.
Right.
And so you need to this is why I really am a big fan of, in both marketing and in technologies, taking baby steps, because that feedback loop is so important.
Yeah.
What works, what's actually working in the marketing realm.
Yeah.
But you're right, it's very different than sales, because sales is closing, is about closing.
Yeah.
And marketing is about getting someone too close.
Right. And sometimes who people think their customer is doesn't turn out to be who their customer is. And that as you're starting out in a business and you're maybe, I don't know, in a scarcity mindset, or like, I just want clients, and you start to like do business with all these people. And then all of a sudden you decide you do like or don't like, or in the pumpkin plan, like all these, we read that book in Mastermind recently, or you start to learn how much your customers are costing you when you start to service them, right? And these customers take a lot of time and effort and produce this revenue result. And these customers don't take as much time and effort, but produce the same revenue result. So how do I get more of these and not these? And so you as a business owner, or I as a business owner, over the years have decided who I want to do business with and don't, right? And then how do I attract more of these and not these? And it's not an exact science.
No, it's not. It's not. And one thing I've really learned too is, and I actually have started this whole thing that I do now, I think because technology makes things easy.
Yeah.
And you have the ability to do all these things. I think a lot of times people just do them because they think they should.
Right.
Or they think it's the right thing to do. Or they think, I've got to do something. That's probably the biggest one, is just, I got to do marketing. I got to do something. And so they just kind of start to throw the spaghetti on the wall to see what will stick. And what I started to do, because I was noticing that as a huge problem, is I do this thing I call nail your marketing in one day. I take all the things that we've learned in Mastermind, books that I've read, all the kinds of things I've learned. I try to put it in this one day seminar that allows you to really understand your strategy first. Because if you don't understand your strategy first, you are just throwing spaghetti on the wall.
Right.
And so that goes to what you said, audience. Who is your audience?
Right.
Who are you really looking? Who very specifically are you trying to target? And then you try it. And like you said, maybe you don't. Maybe your audience isn't what you thought.
Yeah.
Maybe how your messaging to that audience isn't what you thought.
Right.
But if you don't start by rationally thinking about those things, then you really don't know what your experiment. It's like being a scientist in a lab where you're just mixing random chemicals and seeing what happens. You need to have an understanding of what you're doing.
Yeah, I think, as you know, an IT staffing firm, as well as my business coaching, and my IT staffing firm will be 10 years old this year, which is, exciting. And I look back over the years of who I've done business with, who I've chosen not to do business with, who's valued me as a recruiting partner, who has not. And sometimes I look back and go, oh my gosh, I did $1 million in invoices with this client during a time where these people were in leadership roles. And I really loved that. And it was great. And they valued my time. And I went to lunch with hiring managers and the candidates we placed. And then a new person came into leadership and they delayed payment, and they didn't want to come to events, or they didn't return phone calls, or they didn't engage. Like a part of my Torian company's core values is partnership. That's one of our pillars. And as soon as that pillar of our core values went away, the desire to be bold and limitless and engage with them, which are our other core values, didn't withstand the test of time. And we didn't really care to work on orders with them, or we didn't get excited about working. And actually candidates who we had placed with them decided they wanted to leave. They were looking for other jobs. And it's just, you have to lean into your core values as a business too, right? And going back to the pumpkin plan, they weren't the best pumpkin to be working with, right? And being in a small town, you can't recruit out of who you're placing candidates with. I have to be very careful of that. I had to make decisions on who I would take job orders for, or who I would place, who I would recruit from. And I look at the 9 years that I've done business with and who has been a valued partner and who has not.
Yeah.
And with that particular client, I haven't done business with them in 3 years, but now the players have changed and they've now reached back out to do business with me. And I had to sit and think, okay, who is this a valued partner? Do they check the boxes of my core values as a business?
Yeah. I think that's amazing. That's what's a really great thing about a mastermind, is that kind of what you just described about understanding not just who might be your customer, but who's your best customer and who you really want to grow. Being able to anchor that in your core values, all of those kinds of things, I think, are things that I've learned from Mastermind, because when you're a small business, sometimes you're just scrambling and running around chasing your tail and chicken with your head cut out, whatever cliche you want to use.
Right.
And, everyone says, oh, work on your business, not in your business. But man, that's not easy.
No.
At times when that kind of craziness is happening, it's really difficult. And when those things are happening, I think coming back to a room of people who are going through or have gone through similar things and are talking those things that you can talk those things through with, no matter how much of a great team or culture you create, it's not the same when you're the CEO.
Yeah.
And there's a CEO-employee relationship.
Right.
That's not the same. Nobody will give you truly honest feedback.
Yeah.
In that, because there's a power relationship there.
Yeah.
And even if you've created a great culture that still exists.
Right.
And, hopefully you've created a team where you can get as good a feedback as you can, but it'll never be the same as a peer who's just saying, hey, I went through this and this is what happened.
Yeah.
And that also lets you get outside yourself. Oh, I'm not the only one that's gone through this problem. I'm not the only one who had bad clients or clients that weren't the right fit or whatever. I'm not alone.
Right.
So that's a huge part of what's helped me is just realizing, okay, it's not me. It's not my business. Every business goes through those things.
Yeah. And I think sometimes those people at the table remind you who you are and what you said maybe a year ago or a month ago or 6 months ago. And what, like, hey, you said this and you wanted to take a stand for this and what happened to this and what happened to that thing you were working on. And it's a reminder all the time. And being the coach or leader of the group, everyone in the room is a mirror for me, which is a gift in and of itself, right? Like, how is this showing up in my life, in my business? Just because I get to stand in the room and set the room up and like keep contact, like, let's go on to next. And, I get a little bit of grief from some of the members, but if I'm going to sit there and be like, hey, you said you were going to do this, there's these 3 little fingers and the notes I take every day, keeping me in check. And there's lessons for me, which I'm always very grateful for. And so that's something I reflect upon every month, right?
That's so true.
Yeah.
Like sometimes somebody will be processing something that's got nothing to do with, I'm not even, but they'll bring up something that I'm like, yeah, that's something I do too. Which is also great because it gives you a little bit of a distance from it, a little bit of an arm's length to say, okay, I do that too. Yeah. I need to figure out how to solve that, but it doesn't feel as personal because it's not, you're not the one processing. Somebody else is
You're not
processing.
in the hot seat.
Somebody else, let's put it this way. Somebody else is processing an issue that you should process.
Exactly.
But,
Yeah. And it transcends business, right? Like we've had some times in this room or other, because I, as much as I run this room, I'm in masterminds of my own, right? I'm in one with other women coaches from across the country. So I go twice a year to work on myself and my business there. I have rooms and groups that I lean into and continue to always grow myself, right? I think that's important to do. But we've had things where, how you do one thing in one area of your life, you do in others. So we've had health issues come up. We've had trust and will. And are you making sure that you have your house in order, right? It's interesting that I think people think, oh, I'm just working on my business, but it's your whole life, right? It's your whole being, right? And how are you taking care of your whole world? Because it does affect everything, right?
Absolutely.
It does transcend whatever's going on. And you bring those things, you injured your foot, right? It kind of made life a challenge for you. And I recently hurt my back and I realized how crabby I've been just having a back injury, right? But then, maybe I'm not treating my spouse as well as I should, or I need to pause and make sure I'm filling all the cups in my life to the fullest that I can so that I'm the best in all versions, right? Yeah. So that's been kind of interesting and fun and challenging and awareness.
Yeah, the whole person.
Yeah, right? So it's been a fun journey for sure. So this new marketing project, or I don't want to say project, but it's like a new perspective that you've been introducing to small businesses. We went through it and it was very eye-opening for me. And I know you're working with other small businesses. How do people find you to chat about it? I think it's important because it's really, I don't know that it's very niche to small businesses. It can work for any. What do you want people out there to know? about this?
Main thing I want people out there to know is that if you have to start with strategy, whether you do it with me or somebody else.
Yeah.
And strategy just means what are we trying to achieve?
Mm-hmm.
And, for all of the crazy things we talk about and all the things that we just talked about just now, and in the end of the day, a business is about revenue.
Yeah.
And so they say there's 3 ways to create revenue. You can get new customers. You can charge your current customers more, or you can offer new services.
Right.
And that's the beginning of strategy. What is it? How are we going to grow our revenue? And then it's about the audience. And then it's, so there's like a series of steps that I think is, like I said, sometimes there's so many tools out there that it's easy to just jump in, let's just jump into MailChimp and start emailing people.
Right.
Right. Let's just jump into social media.
I need a funnel.
Oh my gosh. Let's just start posting things.
Right.
Doesn't matter what they are, what they say, or who we're trying to talk to. And so it's just easy to do that. It's not casting aspersions. I've done it myself. I've just been like, I got to do something.
Right.
So sometimes I think we feel like activity can make us feel good.
Yeah.
But activity that isn't focused is not helpful.
Yeah.
And a big part of activity that's focused is the feedback loop.
Yeah.
You have to find out. And the modern world is amazing for that because you can get analytics every which way from Sunday. So you really need to start with who you're trying to talk to.
Right.
What are you trying to say? What are you offering them? My favorite word in marketing is intent. What is the intent of the person in your target audience? What are they looking for?
Right.
When they
What's in it for them?
when they search on Google, what is the intent of that search?
Yeah.
The search that would find you. What is the intent? What are they thinking about? Because it's interesting. A lot of times if you really put yourself in their head, they're not thinking about what you're thinking.
Yeah.
You might be thinking people should do a mastermind because masterminds are amazing.
Right.
They might not be thinking, oh, I wonder if I can find a mastermind. They might not even know what the word mastermind is.
Exactly.
So what are they think? What is that small business owner who's just feeling a little lost? What are they thinking?
Right.
And that's why I love that word intent. What is the intention of somebody? Like I like to imagine myself in front of literally Google and I'm like a small business owner. So in your case, I'm lost. How do I grow my business?
Yeah.
So that's like something that might go, I'm not saying that's it, but
right.
that might go to the intent of someone searching for what you do.
Yeah.
And so that's what we try to get at in this. And I love this idea of doing it in one day. And it's grueling. You've done it.
Yes.
It's grueling. It'll make your brain explode by the end.
Well, I think it's interesting, especially for a small business that set out to do one thing, to sell one way, to market one way, and had some success. Mm-hmm. Like I'm getting clients and that's great, but they hit a wall or they're not scaling or growing in a way that they want to, or they do want to offer. Like they, like you said, another way to grow revenue is to maybe offer something new to a client. I'm not sure how to do that. In talking, in having gone through the experience with you myself and now talk to the other people who've gone through it, it just forces you to think about your customer differently. And it forces you to think, do I want to sell something new? Do I want to look at my customer differently? It kind of just forces you to think from your customer's perspective. And I've worked with a lot of different marketing companies. I've worked with social media marketing companies. I've worked with direct marketing companies. And in all of the conversations that I've had and all the luncheons that I've gone to and all the webinars, I think what you've done is taken all of these different books, all of these different things, and you've aggregated into this very exhaustive workbook or spreadsheet or, conversation, and really forced me to think about it in that way.
Yeah.
Who's my avatar? How much money do they spend? What do they want? How do they spend their day? All these questions that I was like, oh my gosh, hold on a second. Am I marketing even to the right person? And who do I want in the room? Why do they want to be in there? And it really made me think. And so I really valued it.
Thank you. That's great. That's what I'm hoping happens. And,
right.
The great thing about technology is if you can get focused in on that audience, the tools out there are amazing how they can drill your advertising, your paid advertising,
right.
into that audience pretty tightly.
Sure.
That's kind of the amazing thing. But if you don't know what that audience is,
right.
It's
daunting and expensive.
I like to fish. I'm a fisherman.
Yes.
And if you're throwing the wrong lure to the wrong fish, you can do that all day long and nothing will happen.
Yeah.
You get the right fish and the right lure, and you get in the right part of the water where all the fish are, because they tend to hang out in the same place.
Yes.
So the ones that like this lure are all in the same place.
Yeah.
And if you throw that lure to all of those fish, you'll do well.
Yeah. Right.
And it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
What is the audience? What kind of fish are we going for?
Right.
What's the lure? What is the message?
Yeah.
What is the message or the offer?
Yeah.
What are we asking these fish to do?
Yes.
And when you get those two things together, amazing things can happen.
Yes. And then it did force me to think about, okay, now that they are interested, what do I do next?
Now you're into sales.
Now I'm into sales, right? Which, may or may not be your department, but it certainly is mine. And now I have to do something. And there's so much. We had Cassidy Lynn Social on, who is social media. And, she said, like, so many people hold her accountable for the sales and revenue and ROI. And she's like, so many marketing companies are held responsible for, well, I want my sales to increase. And she's like, that's not the ROI of marketing.
That's not the ROI of marketing. I will say this, though. If the marketing is targeting the right audience with the right message, the sales is much easier.
Right.
Because now someone's coming in the room. You want someone to come in the room and then sell them what they expect.
Exactly.
If you try to sell them something they weren't expecting, if somehow your marketing wasn't putting dialed in, putting into their head what you're actually selling them, then they're going to come in and be disappointed, confused, maybe even mad. Why did you tell me this? And I'm sure we've all seen that kind of a bait and switch in lots of online things where it looks like it's this, and then you go and they're selling you something else.
Yeah. But what your time I spent with you forced, and through your conversation forced me to do, and we talked about it, was we did develop a sales pipeline after it, right? And that was part of it. Part of the process was, okay, now that they click the offer or whatever, what are you going to do, Sonia? Like, is there a call? Is there a system? And so that was very eye-opening for me and great. And I know for the other individuals that we work together with, developing that is equally as important and part of that process. And so
Absolutely,
that's really great.
is.
So what is your, I guess, call to action? How can people reach you? What do you want business owners to do? If here we are in 2025, it's already February, right? And people have big goals. There's, a lot happening on the national level as far as like what people are concerned with and worried about, and all we can do is focus on our businesses, right? That's what we have control over, right? That's what I want people to focus on, right? That's what you can get up every day and focus on, those you love, those you care about in your business, right? And so what would you suggest people do to maybe get in touch with you, to maybe take that first step to look at their marketing?
Yeah, I would be happy for people to call me or email me. Am I allowed to say that? So
what's your contact information in the show notes?
Chuck@ZooZooWeb.com.
Yep.
That's just like it sounds, ZOO web.com. And my phone number is 310-500-0606. And if you feel like you don't know those key things about your strategy, I'd love to do this one day thing with you. I call it Nail Your Marketing in One Day.
Yeah.
And it's an 8-hour intensive, like, get it all figured out. And
nice.
I started doing it because I saw the need, and I just feel like in the ones that I've done so far, I feel like it really helps people.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm all about. I just want to help people at least understand where you're trying to go.
Yeah.
And that just makes a huge difference.
Yeah. And the package that you have put together is Smoking Deal for the full day is amazing. And so we'll put all of that, how to get you all of that in the show notes and all that great stuff. And so, and what would your advice be for people? Obviously join a mastermind, but like, why? Like, what would your advice be to people to, like, why should they choose to do a mastermind?
Well, again, that cliche, don't work in your business, work on your business. I think for almost everyone I've ever met, with the exception of a few people, it's just so hard to do that.
Yeah.
I think a mastermind just forces you to do it.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, I don't know, going to the gym. If you don't go to the gym, you can't do the gym, right? If you don't go to something, or maybe it doesn't have to be a mastermind, although I think it's amazing, but that's the first step towards working on your business, because it's a whole day where that's all you're doing.
Yeah.
Now, what you do outside of that, everyone probably struggles with that a little bit too, but that's what the mastermind does. It keeps you accountable. hey, like you said you were going to do this. Did you do it? And personal coaching with you is amazing. Like that is super valuable. Some of the extra things you offer, like the software to keep you accountable and keep you on track. But really it's about forcing yourself to work on your business, at least to start. And then it becomes about so much more cool stuff that you don't even realize until you actually start doing it, But to start with, if you really want to work on your business, which you have to do, if you're going to grow. Otherwise, you're just going to run around like a chicken with your head cut off all the time.
Yes.
I've been there, done that.
Yeah.
But when you're ready to work on your business, it's an amazing first step because you have to.
Yeah.
Burn the ships.
Yeah, it's a choice I made before I even owned a business to put myself in this circle of influence, and I begged.
I remember when we were in a mastermind long ago, and we had lunch, and I remember you talking about it, and
I was like, I have to figure this out.
Yeah, and you totally did. Oh my gosh, did you?
Right, and for me, it was like I just need to be. I believed in the saying that you are a product of the 5 people you surround yourself with. Mm-hmm. And that meant a lot to me to be around people who were performing better than me, who were smarter than me in all things, in all areas. I was like, I just want to learn from all of these people. And if you're not growing, you're dying. I believe in that. And I just love that concept, and that people believe in me to be in my room is amazing, but they make me better every day. And so that's super powerful for me.
And I would second that. It's about the other people in the room as much as it is about anything else, because you really are, the different perspectives. It's invaluable. Having other people's perspectives who will tell you honestly what they think is amazing.
Yeah. Lisa always says, you know what you know what you don't know, but you don't know what you don't know. And I think that every month that becomes glaring obvious.
So every time in Mastermind, we put an opportunity that we want to work on.
Yeah.
I remember one time I put, what's the opportunity?
Yeah.
Because it's exactly that.
Yeah.
And I was kind of kidding, but I was also kind of saying, what am I not seeing?
Yeah.
I'd like to process, what is it I'm not seeing from everyone else's perspective? And that turned out to be one of my most amazing processes 100%. Because it's like I was literally asking the room, what are my blind spots?
Yeah.
What is it that I'm just not even aware that I'm screwing up?
Yeah. Well, this is super fun. I know you were like, I don't know if I want to be on. I could put you on the spot and ask you, because I know you're a big Deion Sanders, Coach Sanders. Do you have a coach's corner nugget for today?
Coach's corner.
Even if you like regurgitate one. So Chuck, I love Chuck, even though he's a Denver Bronco fan. I am a Raider fan, so we kind of give each other grief on this stuff. And he's a big Coach Sanders fan.
Well, we've been on pins and needles because everyone assumed that when Deion's kids played University of Colorado, I'm a buff, so everyone assumed that he was going to go coach somewhere else.
Right.
And then Jerry Jones, of all people, was like, maybe Deion Sanders will come coach for the Cowboys, and we're like, oh no. So my brother-in-law is also a big fan, and every time we'd open our ESPN, we'd be like, are we going to see it? Are we going to see it?
Oh, that would be like soul crushing. I'm not a Cowboys fan at all, but that would be soul crushing.
Yeah. But so far, seems like he's staying.
I thought he was going to end up here at the Raiders.
Yeah. But to your point, sometimes at Mastermind, I do a thing called Coach's Corner, where I take wisdom from Deion Sanders or other coaches and bring them to the room.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of wisdom in sports.
Yeah. Coaches always have the best nuggets.
They always have good nuggets.
Yeah.
Because it's all about performance and it's all about the mental stuff, and the teamwork and the collaboration. Like there's a lot in sports that applies to business, I think. And that's why so many sports people go do business talks and stuff like that.
And I was listening to something about Coach Wooden this morning, and he was the basketball. He was a famous basketball coach for the team that's going to escape me.
John Wooden.
Yeah. And someone said one of his best characteristics was always seeing people bigger than they saw themselves. And I think that transcends coaches.
Right. Yeah, I've heard a lot. I've heard people say that about him.
Yeah. So, and I think Deion, when he talks about being like a father figure to those in sports, especially that community, that's big for him, is like being there for those and seeing them bigger than they see themselves, not just in sports, but in life.
I was just going to say, he really wants the whole person.
Yeah.
He got a lot of amazing, talented players because of who he is.
Yeah.
but he also had the highest GPA in the history of the football team.
Yeah.
And so he really values that. It's really important. And these are the types of players that can go on to pro careers, but he wants them to
also
be a whole person. And, you know, if it doesn't work out, to have
something to fall
a well-rounded something to fall back on. And
that's super important.
It's like his own little mastermind.
I know. I know. Wouldn't it be great to get him to come speak one day?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
That would be incredible.
I'll manifest that. Well, thank you for coming and joining me.
Yeah,
I hope
thank you very much. It was fun.
Not as scary as you thought it might have been.
I survived.
You survived. Well, we'll have a follow-up sometime. We'll talk about something different.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, thanks for being on my show.
Yeah,
if you like what you saw today on the Catalyst podcast, make sure you subscribe to our show, like it, and share it with someone who you think might also find value.